Item 10D, receive a report on Crestmoor Neighborhood Upper Sanitary Sewer Replacement Program and adopt a resolution approving an increase in the contract amount of $282,578 for the Phase 5 Upper Sewer Lateral Project with JMB Construction, Inc. Harry?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Harry Burrows, and I'm the city's project manager for the Crestmoor Neighborhood Reconstruction Project. I'm here tonight to present what is overall good news related to the upper sewer lateral replacement program within the neighborhood. This program was established to complete the full underground sewer infrastructure in the wake of the PG&E gas pipeline explosion and fire and benefits the entire neighborhood. The program not only replaces aging and failing sewer pipes, but also reduces the likelihood of inflow and infiltration and sanitary sewer overflows, thus increasing the integrity of the entire city sewer system. To date, of the 373 individual laterals within the neighborhood, a total of 345 Orangeburg laterals have been replaced. The upper lateral replacement program was established by the City Council with two primary options available to homeowners. Owners could hire their own plumber or contractor and replace the laterals and then submit for reimbursement of their costs to the city, or owners could elect for the city to perform the lateral replacement as part of an overall larger city public works contract. The program not only replaces the lateral pipe itself, but also allows for the restoration of any surfaces such as landscaping, paving, sidewalks, and driveways that are damaged during the lateral installation. City Council did not place an upper limit or cap on the dollar amount to be reimbursed for each lateral through the program, as long as the costs were deemed reasonable and required for the lateral installations. So shortly after the establishment of the program, owners began the process of lateral replacement and sought reimbursement through the city. Concurrently, city staff prepared a bid package that included those owners wishing for the city to perform the work. The original project contained lateral replacements for 163 homes. At the time of the award of that project, there were additional owners that had expressed their desire to be included in the city project. There were some additional owners as well, a small number, that opted out of the program and wanted to replace the laterals on their own. To date, the city project has replaced a total of 211 upper sewer laterals in the neighborhood. The replacement of the upper laterals by the city contractor on private property has proven to be a very unique and challenging undertaking. In addition to increasing the number of laterals significantly through the city project, we've encountered numerous construction issues and difficulties. This has resulted in many construction change orders that will ultimately exceed the original authorized construction budget. Details of these changes are included in your staff report, and I won't go into the details now, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding those change orders specifically at the end of my presentation. To illustrate just a sampling of the uniqueness of this project, I provided a few photos. So this first photo, just as a little background, on the left-hand side shows open cut of a lateral replacement. The assumption that was made in the design for the city project was that all the laterals would be replaced using pipe bursting methods. And that entails digging a pit at the upper end at the house, which you can see they're jackhammering a driveway with some enhanced paving there for the upper pit, and the construction of a lower pit down essentially behind the sidewalk, and then pipe bursting a new pipe through the old pipe and connecting them at those two locations. Pipe bursting works great if a video surveillance of the line indicates that there's no sags in it. However, if there is a sag in the line, when you pipe burst, you're following the same profile, so you'll create a sag in the line with the new line. So unfortunately, where there's a sag, you have to open cut, remove the old line, and install the new line with a positive slope with no sag in it. The open cut obviously increases the amount of disturbance and increases the cost for both the pipe installation as well as the surface restoration. There was a high percentage of laterals within the neighborhood that had to be open cut primarily this reason. This next slide illustrates some of the expanded surface restoration that was required on some of the locations due to a difference in the actual lateral than what was assumed in the design. And we have to remember that, we had no plans for the actual locations of the laterals going into construction, and we didn't have videos of the lateral locations either. So the assumption that was made in design was that similar homes, because they were built by what was assumed to be the same builder, the lateral locations would be in the same place. Unfortunately, we found during construction that many homes that were essentially mirror images of other homes down the street, their sewer lateral locations varied. Some went directly to the center of the driveway and the garage. Others cut diagonally across the driveway to essentially the front doors. So there was a great amount of difference in the locations of the sewers across the neighborhood, even on houses with similar floor plans. The other issue that we ran into was the proximity of the sewer laterals in relation to the PG&E gas service lines. Whenever there was a distance of 5 foot or less between the PG&E gas line and the proposed sewer lateral, we could not pipe burst. PG&E didn't feel comfortable letting us do the pipe bursting within 5 feet of their service lines, which was a good thing. This is another example. This is a unique lateral on one of the flag lots. So it's a very long driveway, about 160 foot in length is this lateral. Had a variety of different surface restoration involved. What the photo on the right shows is that the sewer line, you can't really see it too clearly in that photo, but the sewer line is threading the needle there between 4 different other utilities. There's a PG&E gas service line, there's underground electric that serves the gate. There's a gate at the entrance of this driveway. There's also cable TV that extends back to the house, as well as a water service. This lateral required extensive hand digging and other work, restoration work, given that there were 4 different types of surfaces that we crossed. This photo is just indicative of some of the unique conditions we encountered at the essentially at the house where the laterals come out of these houses. So this is an entry to this house that had to be significantly excavated with a lot of unique surface restoration. Here's another example. This is the entry to one of the houses on Glenview Drive. Again, fairly extensive amount of work. And lastly, here's another photo showing an entry at this house. To remove all of the Orangeburg pipe, we actually had to saw cut part of the entry steps and remove them, excavate down, and install. And this one was actually pipe burst from this location. So it's anticipated that given the additional amount of work encountered on this project and the change orders to date, that we will need an additional $282,600 to complete this contract. This amount will increase the total contract budget from just over $1.8 million to an amount of $2,098,954. So as far as the overall status of the sewer lateral program is concerned, like I said, of the 373 individual laterals within the neighborhood, there's a total of 345 homes that have had their Orangeburg replaced. And that is essentially summing those first 4 numbers up there. So there's 76 private laterals that have been replaced and people have submitted for reimbursements. We've got 211 as part of this city program, 38 that were replaced post-fire when those homes were rebuilt. There was an additional 20 homes that are not eligible for reimbursement They replaced their laterals sometime within roughly the last 10 to 15 years prior to this program being put into place. There's some owners that have chosen not to replace their laterals. Some of these, the original laterals, believe it or not, were cast iron. So they decided that since they're cast iron and are in good shape, there's no need for them to replace them. And then we have a category that's unresponsive / undecided. Most of those are unresponsive. We have reached out numerous times to those owners, both with letters as well as door hangers, and still have not received replies from them. We anticipate sending one more final registered return receipt letter to them with a deadline for them to replace their laterals and get reimbursement. So as far as the overall budget is concerned, this shows a summary there. With this change order or increase in construction budget that's requested tonight, the city project will be $2,098,054. We've got almost $370,000 worth of private lateral replacements that have been reimbursed to date. We have additional surface restoration of almost $300,000, and these are mostly property owners that have elected to delay their surface restoration until the completion of this next project, when we remove and replace the sidewalks, curb, and gutter. Their fear is that that project will further damage their project or their driveways or improvements if they do those improvements now. And we've budgeted an additional amount for some remaining private lateral reimbursements, and this chart also shows the administrative fees and some additional contingency and miscellaneous costs. The bottom line, $3.4 million, is slightly less than the $3.5 million that I think the city originally envisioned for this program, or budgeted for this program. So with that, I conclude my presentation and welcome any questions the council may have.
Okay. Any questions for Harry?
Simple question, Harry. I mean, if you budgeted $3.5 million, why are you asking for 200 for the extra money? I'm just curious what the accounting.
So the overall program was $3.5 million, but the amount that the city council authorized for this phase 5, the city construction contract, was $1,816,000 and change. And with these change orders, we anticipate increasing that amount to the $2,098,000.
So in the overall, whatever in that budget of 3.5 will still
Correct.
be within budget. Okay. I mean, that's and
Yeah.
you know, and I know what you're thinking. I mean, what everyone's thinking is that the residents think, oh, you know, you're cutting into it more. So as long as it was been accounted for, it's not a savings, but at least a little bit of a savings, but at least we're not cutting in more into other projects that they're anticipating.
That's correct. And while it would be obviously desirable that we didn't spend as close to $3.5 million, this action is really only related to the contract. And as Harry previously indicated, we anticipated at the outset that there would be far fewer laterals replaced by the city, and consequently far more replaced individually by property owners, which the result is different than we had originally anticipated.
Rico?
Through the chair, thank you. I know all of it was determined to do, at least for the bid, for a pipe bursting. So we didn't take into any account that there would be at least one that couldn't be done, or did we not have it marked with the PG&E lines that with the 5 feet that would not allow us to do that in the first place? To me, at least on the PG&E side, as us putting it together, hindsight's great, of course. We would have known that. So to have that many homes done and to assume that not one would not have to be done that way, I think, again, hindsight is great. Also on the deadline, you talked about the unresponsive and undecided. Have we already sent out certified mail once to these folks?
We have not.
Okay. So kind of thought we had some discussion on that before, but definitely, you're going to do that. I think there does need to be a deadline. There needs to be some time. We need to move this forward. We need to be able to oversee our costs. The other thing, as far as JMB, have we known them to fully replace the entire line of every home that they've been contracted to do in its entirety to our specifications, the guidelines, and the practices in which we both agreed to in the bid process and their work?
Yes, every installation has been inspected by not only Public Works, Public Services inspectors, but also by the building department inspectors.
Okay, so our folks have gone and done that. Do we re-video, or are we taking, so when it's videoed, who's reviewing the videos? And you said our staff is inspecting it.
Correct. Correct. Our staff is inspecting it, both Public Services staff as well as building department staff. And they are videoed, and the videos are reviewed. In multiple instances, installations have been rejected, or remedial work has been determined to be performed by JMB.
And who's reviewing the videos? Our staff?
Correct.
Okay. And so if JMB did not meet our expectations or did not repair a line fully as they were expected to, our expectations and standards, they on their dime have had to correct that?
That is correct.
Okay.
And in addition, we still have retention if they don't perform that remedial work to our satisfaction. We can use that retention to have someone else perform the work, and with using that retention.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just
Marty?
had a question. When is this going to end? No, really. I mean, it's a serious question. We're all agreeing. So, no, yeah, it's not that funny, but so if you can just help us explain to the public, what your time frame is. If this gets done by this time, we can do this, and by X date, maybe an update to everybody, letting everybody know where they're at. I've been getting questions about, hey, when's it going to be done? And I'm all like, I don't know.
So council member, are you referring to the overall project or the sewer lateral?
Everything, like
Okay.
each phase, like this should be done by this date, and the next phase will be done by that date, and then it's kind of like, when does it all end?
Right. So I'll answer that segmentally. The sewer lateral project is essentially complete. The installation of the 211 laterals has occurred. We're going through punch lists now with the contractor and determining the final remedial work that needs to be done as part of that. I would anticipate that we'd be bringing back an item to the City Council in roughly 60 days for closeout of the Phase 5 project. The last major portion of the reconstruction of the neighborhood, what we're calling the Streets Improvement Project, or I previously referred to it as the surface improvements, that's the reconstruction of the curb, gutter, sidewalks, new streets, and new streetlights. That project is currently out to bid. Bid opening is scheduled for April 28th. Currently planning on bringing that forward to the council for award on May 10th. I believe that's the council meeting, May 10th. The project will last approximately 10 months in duration. So it's scheduled for first quarter of next year completion.
How much of a contingency for weather are you kind of anticipating with that?
Well, we've given 185 working days in the schedule. We've also included in that project a bid alternate for cold in place recycling, which will drastically shorten the amount of time necessary for the street reconstruction. So if that option is selected, if it's deemed to be cheaper and is selected, which, knock on wood, we hope it will be, hopefully we'll beat that schedule.
Good.
Good. So turnkey for the whole neighborhood, spring of 17?
The remaining project within the neighborhood that I didn't mention is the replacement of the Earl Glenview Park.
Right.
And we're currently in the process of doing park planning or park visioning on that. We're anticipating that that visioning process will take an additional, I want to say, 3 to 5 months, somewhere in that time frame, at which time a preferred park concept would come back to the council. Once that's blessed by the council, we'll move into final design of the park itself, and the park improvements would occur sometime next year. So I think we're talking about completion of all of the improvements within the neighborhood by mid next year, second or third quarter of next year.
Okay. Carrie?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I think Harry did a good job in the macro of summarizing the Earl Glenview Park planning process. Just to give it a little bit more specificity, we have one more community meeting, which will be held in May. We're working on solidifying that date. I think it'll take the consultant probably a month or two to bring together the vision of the 3 community meetings in the form of a draft master plan that will first go to the Park and Recreation Commission and then come to you sometime this summer. Then following that, as Harry mentioned, we'll start into construction drawings. I'm hoping that we'll be done with that by early 2017, immediately followed, maybe even late 16, but just to not overcommit, by early 17, go out to bid during the rainy season, to the point that was made earlier this evening, so that construction could start in spring of 17. Once we have a clear idea of what the components of the master plan are, we'll be able to give the council a better idea of the duration of the construction. But I think I'm hopeful that by late fall, early winter 17, the park will be ready for people to enjoy.
Okay, thank you. Any action on this item? 10D? Or do we need action? It's just an update, I guess, huh? Yeah. Oh, adopt a resolution, okay. Item 10D?
I'll introduce a resolution. I'm reading the recommendation, it says receive the report, and then I see the resolution. Adopt the resolution, please.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina. Aye. Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.